What is up, YouTube friends and family? So this is an update to my leveling kit that I put on my F250, my 2017 F250. It was said in the last video, Icon 2.5-inch springs. They are that gives you the 2.5-inch lift. Progressive rate springs, kind of, I guess you could say, because the first initial squish of them is kind of like a tender spring on a dual rate spring or dual rate kind of setup, coilover setup, and the rest of it is kind of a singular rate. So it is very much the same throughout the whole stroke, and it gives you kind of the same resistance almost. Kind of more predictable than a progressive rate, and your shocks somewhat should be tuned for that. But anyway, this is more so on this video is for my brake lines. So I put the Carli brake lines on. Now, yes, I have a goulash, if you will, of parts on my vehicle, and I think that's the way people should kind of do their things. What suits your needs. I shouldn't say don't, but kind of do your research and get a kit that really suits your activities. I wouldn't suggest getting always a set it forget it kit. Not bashing on any companies out there, but they tend to kind of fit that one customer, the one guy that's going to do extreme off-roading all the time, and or overlanding or whatever, this and that. Well, I tell you what, I'm doing 99% street driving in this truck. It goes to pick up my boys sometimes. I don't drive it to work, but I drive it to their school to pick them up. Drive it to the liquor store to get lotto. I drive it to go out to dinner sometimes, and maybe to Home Depot if I need to get some big stuff. But even sometimes at Home Depot, I drive my little Honda Accord, my little gas saver, if I need to get some simple little part. But anyway, to the brake install, well, what I went through and what you should look out for if you're going to be installing one of these kits. Now, the only reason I went with Carli is because I liked the look of their brake lines. The Icon brake lines, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I just think that, well, I just preferred the black coating on the lines. And the Icon lines, I don't know if they're coated or not, but I've dealt with coated steel braided brake lines and non-coated steel braided brake lines. So it doesn't really matter which ones you get, because usually they're using a stainless steel braid. It's not going to rust, or it shouldn't rust anyway. And they're both going to hold up great. But let's get to what I think having just a little bit of coating is actually going to benefit you. So let me flip you around. All right, so we're down in here, and let me see if I can I turn on my, oh, I can, wow. All right, so as you can see, it looks like a very basic brake line, nothing really to, all add or nothing. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a brake line. And I have a couple zip ties here, you could see, but this funky little piece, oh yeah, that's something different. So I do have Gorilla Tape. And the reason why I have Gorilla Tape is because the other side, and I'm not going to show you the other side because I already taped it up, I ended up rubbing a little bit. And when I initially installed these brake lines, I was paying attention to the instructions for the most part. I mean, obviously everything's somewhat custom. You could see kind of down here on the spring right here, it did rub slightly. It's because I had it pushed in a little bit more, but that's not a big deal. The big deal was this whole bracket that Carli uses is substantially weaker than the OEM bracket. And I think that was somewhat intentional, because you kind of have to mold these things to your vehicle. And what I mean by that is every vehicle, no matter what's going to be different. And I don't care how many of these trucks you line up. I can have 10 of the same year, same exact options and everything, and everything's going to be somewhat slightly different. It's just because I don't know. It has nothing to do with the manufacturing process or anything, but it's just these trucks have a mind of their own. And what I mean by that is, I mean everything down from the alignment, the caster, and all that stuff. Every single one of these solid axle trucks, no matter what you get, a Jeep, whatever, solid axle vehicles in the front have a mind of their own. And you kind of have to cater to whatever that mind is. So what I did was I made sure I was clearing enough of this coil where it's not going to get smashed down. And I highly doubt it's going to get smashed down because you can see how much up travel I have with those Icon bump stops, which I'm going to do a custom bump stop because what I did is, I'm getting off track here, but my rubber spacer down there, sorry you can't see it, but that is the amount of travel I still have left before my shock bottoms out. So I have roughly about an inch to an inch or so, maybe an inch and a quarter or so that I could trim off of that. I'll probably just cut that in half as a 2-inch spacer, and I'll probably cut that in half. But anyway, getting off track. So like I said, I have a goulash of things. I have Carli brake lines, extended brake lines. I have Icon springs. I have AccuTune shocks, Fox Factory Race Series. You're not going to find these shocks on any of their websites. Icon has their own shocks. Their proprietary shocks, whoever they're using to make their shocks. And then you have Carli, and they're using some of the big names. Obviously Fox, they're using King. But the one thing that Carli does not offer is the adjustability, and that is right down in there. Dual speed compression adjusters, and that's going to give me all of that extra adjustability when I'm towing. And don't mind my track bar, it always flops forward like that. I've twisted it back several times. It's not going to hurt anything. But what I suggest you guys do, if you're installing these yourself, and if you're comfortable, like Carli says, if you're comfortable with banjo fittings down there on your caliper, and if you're comfortable with flared fittings, and if you've messed around with flared fittings before, you're golden. You're fine on this. You want to put enough torque on them to where you know that they're snug and they're not going to leak, but you do not want to over torque that flare fitting. So, and I don't know if there's a torque spec or not. You'd have to get a crow's foot and everything, but you should have the feel for it. Your hand should have that feel for it. What I suggest you guys do, and they do tell you to crimp these down. Once you find the spot where these lines you think they want to be, and it tells you to crimp this guy down so that line doesn't move in and out. And what I have temporarily here is these zip ties, because I'm still playing around as I'm driving and everything. I want to figure out how much room I want to play with. And the whole reason I got these lines is because I didn't want this binding so much when it was stock. I mean, it was already looped down like this. And you imagine any droop, I'm just going to completely obliterate that rubber line. And Icon, straight from the horse's mouth, Icon says they do not recommend brake lines, extended brake lines with their 2.5-inch kit. And if you do this yourself, you're going to look at it and go, why the F not? It does not make sense. And for $150, get yourself some extended brake lines. So what I did, and back to the bracket, I took some vice grips and I started kind of and put them in spots where I can really mold this piece of metal. It's really easy to bend this thing. And you guys know what I'm talking about once you get it. I mean, you can do it with your hand for the most part and get it into a rough position. And then once you get in that rough position, take your vice grips or anything that, you can clamp with. You can use channel locks if you want. My suggestion is vice grips because then you can snap them on and then move it around. You don't have to be squeezing the whole time when you're doing it. And get that contour, get that angle that you want. Now, the reason why I put this Gorilla Tape on here was because, first of all, yes, I did have a little bit of rubbage. This side was the good side. The other side, on the passenger side, it wore through this coating and onto the braid. There was a slight polishing of the braid, but nothing that was frayed. So I'm confident enough that I don't think that I've compromised that line. Oh, man, it's starting to rain on me. But, yeah, now weird in SoCal, right? But, this is what I suggest you guys do, is get yourself some vice grips, start really playing around with your angle. And the only reason why I'm saying do that for this application is if you have the stock wheels. The offset is inwards a little bit. Like Carli and Icon, everybody's telling you, do a +5 offset, a +5-inch offset, and that's going to give you, it's really going to bring the wheel out like that. And I don't want so much where it's just flinging crap all over my truck, and that's why I like the stock look, because everything's tucked away, and I'm not flinging crap all over my paint. But if I need to, I will do that. So far, so good. I took it for a drive today, and it looks like it's holding up, and I've done some full lock-to-lock, and even hitting some dips and everything like that, and it seems like I figured it out. And this is what the stock wheels and tires. So this would really benefit you Tremor guys. They're going to be running, they come stock with 35s, I believe, same offset. but granted, I think they're 20-inch rims, something like that. But this would really benefit you trimmer guys, that if you're doing this yourself, if you're doing a kit like this yourself, and it's regardless of Carli or Icon, you're going to get the same amount of lift height and everything like that. And if you want to do your brake lines, the brake line setup is going to be exactly the same. I just really recommend you guys start bending and tweaking that line to kind of come in closer to the spring, because originally when you get these brackets, they're way out kind of like this. You want to bring them in like that, not like that on each side. That'll save you a lot of headache and you won't snag on these lines. One thing I recommend too is you guys check this as you're bleeding. Now, I did the first side myself and I bled this side. Actually, I did the side first. I should have done the other side, but whatever. But I did the side myself, and I did the old Gatorade bottle with the clear tube down in there with a little breather hole, and as you pump, you're not really ever getting air back up in the line, so you don't have to, have someone push the brake pedal as you release and then lock it back down, so you don't suck in air again, because you're not going to suck in air if you're sucking in brake fluid back through that line. And that's a little trick that you can find online. You can find some YouTube videos on how to purge your brakes, bleed your brakes yourself with a Gatorade bottle or water bottle with brake fluid already in there, and it just, as the vacuum goes and like this, it's pretty cool. Anyway, I did it myself on this side, but I did lose a lot of brake fluid when I had this disconnected. And the first side was like, wow, I drained a lot. Second side went real fast. I had everything prepped, everything bolted on, hurried to put my flare fitting on, banjo, boom, 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 done, and I lost minimal brake fluid. But in between bleeding each side, I was checking my reservoir. My reservoir dipped way down on my first run, filled it up, and then it dipped down again, and I used a total of one of these, 1 pint, so 16 ounces. I used one whole of these on the first run, and I ended up flipping around because I know I'm not even talking to you guys anymore. I ended up using that whole bottle, and I still was right above the minimum line. So I went down to my local O'Reilly's and got this. In case you guys are wondering, I did a little research, and yes, 5.1, 4, and 3 are all compatible because they're glycerin based, I believe, or glycol. Sorry, glycerin, I think glycerin based or something like that. Well, let me see. Let's check on here. Let me check. Non-silicone based brake, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, for vehicles requiring a Super .4, .5.1, non-silicone based brake fluid should not be used to service vehicles specifying .3 fluid meets .5.1, blah, blah, blah. So our trucks, they and now if you actually look online, they say .3, .4, and .5.1 are actually all compatible. Their boiling points are different. 5.1 is supposed to be higher, but they should all, for the most part, be compatible. The only one that's not compatible would be the 5.5, which is a silicone base. I'm not sure what happens to those things when they mix, but probably can't be good. So anyway, I used a 5.1 in my truck so far. It calls for 4 in the manual, and I nothing's wrong with it. So cool, awesome. I'm good to go there. I've driven it around. I drove it around Saturday, which was 2 days ago, and then I just drove it around today. I had to go back to O'Reilly's and like I said, get more brake fluid, and I topped it off. Now I'm full. And so for the most part, I'm loving these brakes. I'm loving the brake lines, because what it does is it just gives you that peace of mind where you're not going to overextend your brake lines, your rubber lines, because they were already stressing from the get-go. And you're going to get just a firmer brake pedal. It feels a lot firmer. It's crazy. It's almost like when you first do your brakes and everything's like perfect and you still have a whole pad left, on each side, and you're like, whoa, it stops like crazy. Not saying my brakes don't stop like crazy, because I have the power stop slotted and drilled rotors, and this thing will stop my trailer even if my trailer doesn't have its brakes hooked up. So, and with ease. So with these steel braided lines now, this truck, I mean, insane. It throws you forward. I had a guy rear-end me actually with this brake setup on the Coronado Bay Bridge when I was going to work. It was a sailor, out of town sailor. I don't know if he was from Illinois or something like that. Following too close behind me, I had to hit the brakes because the traffic in front of me stopped right on the bridge. He rear ends me, and he's a little car. He's in a little tiny crossover, and this truck stops on a dime now. So anyway, getting off topic, but the brakes, love them. Brake lines, love them. I will keep on monitoring these brake lines. I did reach out to Carli and ask them a couple of suggestions or what their professional opinion was, and they were not hesitant to reach out at all. They reached out real quick, even though they know I don't have their full kit, but I did buy their brake lines, and they asked me some very basic questions. Did eat all the way through this and that, and of course I said no, and I just wanted to see what they thought. By taking away that coating on the other side, did it compromise the brake line? And so after I emailed them back just a few minutes ago, I'll wait till tomorrow. But for the most part, guys, love the brake lines. I totally recommend. I don't give a rat's ass what Icon says or what Carli. Well, Carli, it comes in all the Carli kits. The only reason why they say Carli and Icon says they don't recommend is because the Carli kit supposedly has more down travel than the Icon kit. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. AccuTune, the place I got my shocks done from, which sold me this leveling kit, they told me that guys were bending their brake line brackets or something like that to the stock ones to give more throw. And I'm going, you know what? I just don't like it. It wasn't sitting well with me. It's not making me feel comfortable enough to where if I snap one of those lines because I'm off-roading or something like that, and it yanks it off, I have no brakes. So now I have beefier brake lines, and all is good. So I will eventually get rims and tires. But for right now, if you guys are in a pinch and you had, say, a truck like mine with oversized tires, because these are wider and taller than these stock tires, I recommend you doing what I said. Play with your brackets and bend them to where they're gonna fit everything in your contour. Go full lock to lock. Put a GoPro under there if you need to, and link it to your phone so you can watch it live. Whatever you need to do, or have someone watching for you. And if you're a trimmer guy, same deal. I believe it's the same offset. And a lot of guys, when they buy their brand new trimmers, it's like, man, it was already sticker shock, and then you want to do a nice kit, because we all know that Ford, all of them that come with these off-road kits, the shocks suck. So anyway, that's what I got, guys. I hope this kind of got you in the direction you wanted to go. If you're looking for something how to bend your brake lines or how to get them there, but it's working for me. So from the horse's mouth, I'm not rubbing anymore. My brake lines are doing good. Stock offset rims and with oversized tires, it's doing great. So let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. All right, later.